In this new series, we're going to be taking a look at the best and worst PlayStation 4 games of the last month. We'll be doing this series at the beginning of every month, and this is the June edition, meaning we are going to be taking a look at the games that were released in May. As far as overall game releases go, May was pretty significant, and we've got 4 games to go over in the best category and 2 games to go over in the worst category, and we are ranking these games based on the Metacritic scores, and I'll go over that as well, and I'll throw in some quotes from various outlets, and all of those reviews will be in the description box down below, so you get multiple and objective point of views all around. With that being said, let's start things off on the positive side in the best category. Again, I mentioned we've got 4 games to go over. First up, we've got Detroit Become Human, which is sitting at a 79 on Metacritic. It's actually dropped a little bit. On release day, I believe Detroit was around an 82 to an 83, but now after more reviews have come out, it dropped down to a 79, which is actually a pretty significant drop. Broke it down from that AA category, and Detroit Become Human was the latest game from Quantic Dreams, and if you're familiar with their games, if you've enjoyed their projects, you're probably gonna have a pretty good time with Detroit Become Human. Now, the issue is, the standard has been set so high for PlayStation 4 exclusives that Detroit does come across as one of the lesser ones, considering we just came off the release of God of War, and then last year we had titles like Horizon Zero Dawn, and those games were just so good. Detroit Become Human does seem like a step or two below that, but is that really saying much? It's still a good game. A 79 is not a score to scoff at by any means, and here's what DualShockers had to say about the game. Quote, "While Detroit Become Human is the quintessential Quantic Dream game, the additional variety and the spectacular level of craftsmanship it involves may make it intriguing even for those who used to not be a part of the studio's usual target audience." They also touted unforgettable storytelling, top-notch acting, and cutting-edge graphics, which is evident right away. This is a very pretty game to look at, and Quantic Dreams has always excelled at that. Again, the title has a 79 on Metacritic.
Pull the trigger. How do I know you are not a deviant?
They are not machines!
I could take you there.
Storyteller! Go! See this!
My name is Kara.
My name is Connor. My name is Marcus.
Next up, number 3 is Dragon's Crown Pro, which is currently sitting at an 81 on Metacritic. Dragon's Crown was a PlayStation 3 and PlayStation Vita title developed by Vanillaware, which is a studio that's been getting more and more attention recently, I feel. They've done some great games, including Odin Sphere on the PlayStation 2, Muramasa the Demon Blade, that released on the Wii, and then it was ported later over to the PlayStation Vita. And of course, they also did Dragon's Crown, and now we have Dragon's Crown releasing on the PlayStation 4 in the form of Dragon's Crown Pro. The majority of the game is still intact, but it's all presented in 4K, so it looks even better, and the art style in Dragon's Crown, and all Vanillaware games to be exact, look incredible. And here's what PlayStation Universe had to say about the game. Quote, "With everything you loved about the base game intact and all presented in glorious 4K, both fans of the original and newcomers to the game can enjoy the adventure together with crossplay to both older systems." That was a very nice addition. A lot of developers and publishers would not allow crossplay between prior platforms and current platforms, but Dragon's Crown has that, and that definitely should give them a couple points. Dragon's Crown Pro again is sitting at an 81 on Metacritic. Next up, we have a game that we've been talking up quite a bit, and that was Moonlighter, which is currently at an 82. Moonlighter is just a beautiful and artistic game. If you're a fan of old school pixel art style, Moonlighter is going to be right up your alley, and the game itself has some varied and engaging gameplay as well. Here's what WCCF Tech had to say about the title. Well, Moonlighter is a wonderful game that uses a delightful separation of tools to make you want to keep playing. It innovates the dungeon crawler genre in the most ingenious way possible. That's pretty high praise praise, but it's well deserved. Even with Moonlighter's critical reception, I don't feel like enough gamers know about the title. Yes, maybe this isn't one you want to drop full price on right away, but add it to your wish list, keep an eye on it, and when it's on sale, this is one that you definitely want to check out. It's one of the surprising hits of 2018, and I expected it to be good, but it seemed like the entire PlayStation audience didn't have that same belief and didn't even know about the game, to be frank. And the 82 on Metacritic, while that's a very respectable score, honestly, I would say it deserves a little bit higher of a score, but hey, coming at an objective point of view, it's got that 82 on Metacritic.
Working hard. Making sacrifices. Doing everything to finally achieve our dreams. Just to realize.
And finally, number 1 is Dark Souls Remastered, which is sitting at an 86 on Metacritic. Now, you know what to expect out of Dark Souls Remastered. It's a remastering of Dark Souls 1, and that game fundamentally was already so good that the remastered version was gonna be received very well. Dark Souls Remastered is just a more refined version of the very first game. You've got the downloadable content. I don't really need to sell Dark Souls Remastered. It's not one of the better remasters that have come out, but the fundamentals of Dark Souls are already pretty solid, that you can't really say too much bad things about the game itself, but it did have a little bit of that stench of a quick cash grab. But hey, the game itself was already so good that I can't crap on it too much. PlayStation Universe said this, quote, "Though the remastering effort is perhaps not as extensive as some might like, Dark Souls Remastered is without a doubt the best way to play one of the finest action RPGs ever, and is nothing short of essential for newbies and stalwarts of Dark Souls fans alike." So that's very high praise, and they once again echoed my statements about the game being fundamentally a very good action RPG. You can't go wrong with Dark Souls 1. But as far as the spectrum of quality remasters go, the actual remastering elements falls a little bit on the lower side. But still, an 86 is a very, very good score. Moving on to the two games that weren't received all too well, we'll go in descending order here. Space Hulk Deathwing was a game that I was quite excited for, but ended up with a 56 on Metacritic, which isn't an awful score. And I was expecting a slightly higher score than this. I was expecting in that 60 to 65 range, but it turned out that Space Hulk Deathwing on the PlayStation 4 did come with some technical issues, so that 56 actually falls completely in line. If you would have expected a 60 to 65, the technical issues may drop it 5 to 10 points. A 56 is very serviceable. I played it on PC and I had a good time with it, but I could tell that this wasn't going to be a game that was going to be super well received. It's very average in a lot of regards. Here's what PlayStation Country said about the game. Quote, "Space Hulk Deathwing accurately looks and feels like a Warhammer 40k licensed game. Unfortunately, for what it has in atmosphere and looks, it just isn't that great to play. Instead, the game is slow and laborious slog mixed with laborious combat that rarely feels satisfying." I didn't think the combat was that bad, but I definitely get the idea of it not being as satisfying as some other action-oriented titles. Again, a 56 on Metacritic is what it's sitting at.
To serve the Emperor. For tomorrow, you die!
And without a doubt, the most disappointing game of May has to be Agony, which is currently sitting at a 45 on Metacritic. This was a survival horror game that a lot of gamers were interested in. It's been in development for a very long time, and right away when a game has been in development for quite a while, that does raise skepticism. Agony was released last week, and unfortunately, while it had an incredible atmosphere and the actual design of the game was very well done in terms of presentation, it really faltered in a lot of the gameplay elements and the technical elements. The Sixth Axis said this about Agony. Agony. Quote, Agony is true to its name and intentions, a hellish experience. My excitement for the game was quickly quashed behind bugs, crashes, and unbalanced gameplay, failing to live up to the potential of the game's core ideas and outstanding visual design. I hope that I can travel back to hell following some substantial patching, but as things stand, Agony is torture in all the wrong ways. A 45 is a really bad score, especially with a game like this. I was expecting this to be one of the better survival horror games released this generation. Hopefully at some point it becomes lesser of a technical mess and we can at least play through the game and have a quality time with it, but at this point it absolutely is not worth your money. Keep an eye on it, see how the patches turn out, and maybe during a sale you'll be pushed over the edge to pick it up, but as of this moment, absolutely not worth it. So that wraps up the best and worst PlayStation 4 games of the last month. What do you think? Which of these games did you check out? Do you agree with these Metacritic scores? Do you disagree? Do you think some games were better than they scored? Do you think some games were worse? Sound off with your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching and goodbye.